She refused to poop for a little over a day, and then she finally squeezed it out on the carpet.
Yeah,
So
better than nothing.
that's dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, trust us, we know. Freaking, I was taking a dump the other night, and then
On the carpet?
yes,
What do you
and
guys
then
talk about on this podcast?
I
This.
come out. Lola had pooped in the
Claire isn't one of our 18 loyal listeners. Oh no.
Don't listen to every single one. I'm sorry.
And we welcome you to another episode of Wilk and Wiz, your bi-weekly update on Utah athletes in the National Football League, as well as you, the fan. Cole, we've been talking about doing a wives episode for some time, and
Yes.
today's the day we get one of our, this makes me sound polygamist,
One of your or one of our?
No.
My wife is joining the show.
These are my favorite episodes. These are the Wilk and Wilkinwisses. We've done this a few times.
Yes. We have done this a few
Yeah.
times. Clarissa Wilkinson, welcome to the pod after getting final grades posted yesterday as a junior college professor on a day where junior college sports has kind of taken the scene.
Yeah, she's got plenty of eligibility left once she goes D1.
That's right. Appreciate you hopping on with us, babe.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Well, let's talk a little bit. So you teach nutrition at Snow College, and you've had a couple Snow College football players in your classes over the years. Let's talk about nutrition within just an athletics perspective. What might be some of the misconceptions when it comes to being an athlete and being nutritious, I guess, nutritious, however you want to word it.
Tanner's never heard of it. It's,
You would think, right?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch and
Here's the thing. You could come on a podcast about football. I could not come on a podcast about nutrition.
Fair.
Like you were, if you were nervous about it, just think of me on a nutrition podcast. Tell us just some of your observations you've had, maybe about athletes and nutrition, having had some college athletes in your class.
Sure. Yeah, Tanner's mentioned my guest appearance for a while, and I was always like, what exactly would I talk about? Because I get football through osmosis through him. I don't know all of the things, so don't feel like you have to tailor this whole thing to to what I know. Um, but yeah, I've had lots of athletes, lots of football players in my classes, and see a lot of either thoughts they come in with or things they're struggling, and it's common and similar things for everyone. Um, their biggest struggle is just trying to eat enough to keep up with their physical activity levels. Um, so I mean, there's a lot that could be said at this point, but I think one of the things that I often share with them initially that's most helpful is just look, try and eat more frequently throughout the day. Like you're probably having a hard time eating enough if you're only eating 2 to 3 meals per day. For a lot of college students, it's two because they skip breakfast. Um, there's nothing magical about eating 5 to 6 meals per day, just that it gives you more opportunity to increase your calories. And that's kind of the biggest rock. Maybe one of the first ones is just, are you eating enough overall? And that's hard to do when you're that physically active.
this is when we actually are going to get to talk about this. Is cool. This when you see offensive linemen or defensive linemen, especially right after they retire, almost always just shed the pounds because you have to eat so much to maintain that bulk. Joe Thomas looks like a skinny rail. Andrew Whitworth on TV nowadays. These guys aren't at that 305-pound playing weight anymore because they don't have the professional nutritionists that are keeping them, in the facility and keeping them eating constantly. That makes sense. They're just, calorie in, calorie out kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of so I'm, work at a junior college, so I see a lot of like ex high school athletes who have the opposite problem. Maybe they feel,
Mm.
heaven forbid, they're gaining a few pounds and they're like, "Oh, I don't understand." And it's like, well, your intake probably stayed the same, but your physical activity level, has decreased because you're no longer like on an
At
organized.
two-a-days.
Yeah, exactly. But that's so I hadn't really thought about that. That it's kind of the opposite. Once you're done playing professionally, that it's hard to eat enough. And like you said, no one's there helping them,
Because
forcing food down
yeah,
their mouth. So then they lose the weight, and the opposite happens.
one of the cool things when I watch Hard Knocks is seeing just the behind the scenes and the whole team that is behind the team that's that we see play on Sundays, and the training staff and everything else. So at the JUCO level, you teach a class about nutritionists, but do we know, you know, I assume like Alabama's got one of these world class kind of things, and we know a little bit about the BYU facilities. As that starts to filter down, what's the nutrition program like for the Snow College kids?
Yeah, I mean, they get a meal card to the Badger Den, like they have some of their meals paid for. That's it. So,
And that's how Jalen Warren built an NFL body is by
Garrett Bowles,
that's
one of the
awesome.
biggest guys in football, played at Snow College. Like,
yeah, it's just a lot of, and then talk amongst teammates like, oh, what are you doing that works? Or how are you, putting on the weight? So when they do come to my class, because it's really, I mean, there's like a personal training class at Snow, but they
Yeah.
come to my class, Intro to Nutrition, which is a general ed credit, so they take it a lot instead of maybe like a biology or chemistry class. It can just count as a general ed credit. So they come with a ton of questions, and most of the time they're great questions and they're not super far off. But I have some of the coaches reach out to me and have me come and speak to the teams, before their season starts or just whenever. And that's really like, that's it.
That's so cool though.
Yeah.
You're
No, I
like
just really
you're
enjoy it.
that guy. You're the person that does that.
Yeah, I guess I am.
let's shift gears and talk a little bit now. Women's sports has taken a massive jump, especially in the last decade. Obviously, Caitlin Clark, WNBA this last year, and caught
Athlete of the year.
yet time athlete of the year, which is incredible. You and I went to a WNBA game this summer. We both had a great time. Hope to do it again in Vegas at some point. And then on top of that, that's just a lot of discussion right now. The game Cole and I were at on Saturday, they honored the female flag football player of the year in the state of Arizona at the game,
Oh.
which I thought was really cool. Where do you see women in football coming along? Because a lot of it is this behind the scenes that Cole said, right? The personal chefs, the we're seeing a lot more in coaching. A lot of women assistant coaches have really surfaced over the last 5 years or so in the NFL. Eventually, are we going to have like a football league for women? Do you think? Where do you see just women in sports in general as of right now?
Um, how you mentioned do you mean not just players, but
Yeah, just as a whole, how women get involved in football.
oh, interesting question. I haven't thought about this. Yeah, so I didn't even know there was a flag football, whatever you just said. So I could see something like that rising a bit more in popularity. And I mean, from my limited knowledge, I told Tanner I was coming here as myself. Like I didn't research anything beforehand.
That's
Um,
what we want.
I know, right? So this is totally my opinion, but I feel like it'd probably be a ways off before we get like a female league. What do you guys think? Well, I don't know what the rules are because we have some females playing college football,
Hmm.
right? Um, are there any rules or I don't know, I guess do you guys think there would be a possibility of someone being good enough of a female, no, I shouldn't say being good enough, but of having the opportunity to play in like the NFL? Or is it like how
Right
close
now,
is
they're in the
that?
non-contact position, so it's
Right.
kickers that
Like that's
are
what yeah,
at
kicker.
the college level. I think one of my general hopes it was a flag football championship, or like the state flag football league that was being honored at that Cardinals game. And as flag football enters the Olympic sphere, like as flag football as a separate sport from NFL American full contact red iron football becomes a thing, that playing field is even. Like we're talking just like speed, you don't have to have that 305-pound frame running into another 305-pound man where it's very full contact. Women, the girls in my middle school class were just as good as the guys at that time because that's the way the bodies are. So that's just flag football, man.
That's what I was going to say. I think the Olympics are really going to answer that question for us 2028 in LA, which is cool. So like we won't be that far away from possibly being able to go. We were discussing this on a car ride to one of the high school games I cover, what that's going to look like, what flag football at the Olympics is going to look like. I'm really excited for it. I don't know,
Yeah.
the memes are obviously fun. I think we talked about it a little bit. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit on the trip. Like, is Tyreek Hill going to be juking some Brazilian math teacher? Like just because we're football so new in these other countries, that's also going
Hmm.
to be a big topic of discussion. So I think that's a good answer.
And this is why they're the sports guys. So, do you guys think we'll see that sort of equality in flag football before we get like a woman contact football league of their own or more female kickers in the NFL or something?
Yeah, and they'll probably stay separate leagues for a while, like the NBA and the WNBA. It'll be women's flag football and men's flag football. If we, but growing up, we remember, golfing and tennis. Like, there were sports where women, and Danica Patrick racing, there were sports where we tried to see some of those trailblazers, and some of that's petered out. Like it's been a while since we've had one of those big, moments for women trying to break into men's sports, and maybe flag football is the place.
That's cool. We should. I'm now interested to watch some flag football.
We did it, Tanner.
And here in Utah, they do have a tackle league
Oh,
for women in high school. It's a club. It's not a UHSAA sanctioned sport, to my knowledge. Maybe they've sanctioned it now. It's something I have to look up again off the top of my head. But there's a guy I follow on Twitter he coaches his girls' high school football team, and his daughters play, and he's a very big advocate for it. And it's been kind of
Dang.
fun to follow that as he tweets out how they do and whatnot. So, all right, final question for you before we get into our pick 'em. Best thing about being married to a footballholic and the worst thing about married to someone who just loves, loves, loves the game of football.
oh,
Now I'm glad that my wife does not listen to every episode either.
um, I mean, best thing is that it's just you, but in particular with football, I guess I don't know. We're both have our independent sides as well. So he does his hobbies and I do, my hobbies. So it's just, I never like feel away if when your time is taken by that. Also, I feel like it's brought more friends and more people into my life and I like coming, and hanging out with you guys on the weekend. So that's fun. Good food. You can never complain about that. And then the worst thing about being married to such a big football fan. Honestly, you don't do anything that makes it that bad.
Oh,
I guess sometimes,
Aw.
on Sunday or something, I'm like, and the TV's been on for 6 straight hours.
Seven hours
7
of
hours of
commercial.
commercial-free football.
Jeez, I need I was close at least for pulling that out of nowhere. Um, but I mean, I can't complain when you just went on a cool guys trip out of state to an NFL game for less than $300 over a weekend. Like,
We
Yeah, that
did
was our big travel,
we did calculate it. I mean, I spent like 300 bucks, less than 300 bucks.
including swag.
Yes.
yeah, it was
Hmm.
like less than 150 before you bought merch and all like fun stuff, so that's great for,
Yeah,
yeah.
there are more expensive dude hobbies out there. That
Yeah.
is for sure.
Yeah. Like you could make it very expensive, but Tanner's also not an idiot. So
I love my deals. What can I say?
We went to Arizona. I didn't wear my Arizona hat on our recap show. It took me until today to remember that is because I picked this up when I went to a baseball game at Chase last time I went down to Arizona. But since I didn't pick up a new hat, I figured that today was going to be the Arizona hat day. You ready for picks?
Let's do picks. It is Thursday night football, the Broncos and the Chargers. This actually got flexed into Thursday night, which is fun. So it wasn't scheduled. It was just a few weeks ago, it was just a regular Sunday game. Chargers are a 3-point favorite at home. I don't love Justin Herbert's ankle right now against a very good edge rushing Broncos team. Herbert's mobility is going to be key in this game, and because it's in doubt, I'm going to take the Denver Broncos to win on the road.
Man, I've got doubts about the Chargers defense, the way that they looked just last week. Now, I mean, Bo Nix wasn't anything special either, but Denver's been competent, and Sean Payton can normally take advantage and pick apart weaknesses like that. So as the Chargers get longer into this season, some of that depth, like the personnel concerns we had early in the season, they're coming out now because yeah, you covered over it and you papered over it with good coaching and that can-do attitude that Jim Harbaugh brings, but now it's just you need some guys. Like I mean, the Lions are hitting the same run of it where at the end of the day you need guys to be on the field, and so I'm going to take Denver.
I've got doubts for Fallout if Denver loses for Bronco or for Tanner. So I'm gonna pick Denver as well.
And her ex was a Broncos fan, so I wondered if that was going to happen.
Yikes.
Houston, Kansas City. So we get a couple Saturday games on this slate to kind of get us ahead of the games so that we can get a couple Christmas Day games next week. That way they have enough time in between. So a couple Saturday games on a great Saturday for football, by the way, because it's college football playoff also. Houston, Kansas City. I'm going to take Kansas City because I'm taking them for the same reason I've been taking them. They are able to just do this and get wins.
Yeah, Houston's clinched the division, by the way, at 9-5, and they just haven't looked like they did at all last season. It's just
Yeah.
simply they play in a bad division. They're good enough to win those games. Mahomes likely going to play with the high ankle sprain. That's enough for me to pick Kansas City.
High ankle tweak, high ankle soreness, yeah.
Yeah, it's changed every day. I'm taking Kansas City.
Just to put it out into the universe and manifest, I'll go with Houston.
That's the spirit.
Massive, massive game in the late afternoon, Cole, for your Steelers as they're taking on Baltimore. This has got championship implications in terms of winning the AFC North. Baltimore is a 6.5 point favorite. They are at home. Pittsburgh had a tough sledding against Philadelphia. We talked about the second half of the schedule potentially catching up with the Steelers, and I am going to take Baltimore here. Should make things really interesting the last few weeks in one of the toughest divisions in football.
Look, I'm pretty sure that I picked the Baltimore Ravens earlier this year against the Steelers because it can only go on for so long when you talk about this streak. So it was 7 of 8 coming into the last game, which means they've won 8 of 9 now, the Steelers have. This is the first time that Lamar Jackson has faced the Steelers at home in this rivalry, though, because some of the reason why the Steelers have such a good record is, yeah, they have a little bit of Lamar Jackson's number, but also they've had the advantage of the Ravens resting starters late in the season or Lamar being injured or what have you. I'm going to take the Ravens again. And I said it when the Steelers were, what, 10-3 or 9-3. I don't think that I still don't think it's enough of a lead to win this division, and I'm going to take Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ravens too. Sorry, Cole.
It's okay. I understand it. On to the Sunday slate. It is Cleveland and Cincinnati in the other half of the AFC North. And, I think Cincinnati can outscore them. Joe Burrow in the fantasy playoffs might have some good things because this Cleveland defense just isn't quite up to snuff.
As someone who survived by 0.08 points in guillotine this last week, two of my big reasons why was Chase Brown had a phenomenal game. Need him to do that again. Need Jamar Chase to go off again. And I think they do. I'm going to take Cincinnati at this point.
It's the weekend before Christmas. Gotta go with Cincinnati. Because that's who
Because
Burrows plays for, right?
yeah,
Oh,
and he looks
okay.
like McKay
Yeah,
Cole.
yes.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see. Yeah,
Okay, okay,
well, we
okay.
got you.
It's a Home Alone reference.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I thought. The Rams in New York taking on the Jets. I really need the Jets to win this game as a Cardinals fan. The Rams are a 3 point favorite, have been playing some really good football. I'm taking the Jets. This is my upset of the week. I like the Jets. I think the way the NFC West has just been so wonky, I think it continues to get wonkier. I'm going to take New York, giving a breath of life to the Cardinals.
Yeah, and I said it last week on my picks. I was going to try to even out the whole NFC West but the Rams are on a roll. They're actually getting hot at the right time. This is the Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford effect, right? Just a couple guys that have been there before. And now that the receivers are healthy and the defense is coalescing, I'm taking the Rams.
Because I know nothing and I'm petty and gonna go purely off of vibes. I'm also picking the Rams.
You don't like conspiracy theorists, so it makes sense.
Tennessee and Indianapolis. Indianapolis's playoff hopes are all like I think that's mathematically possible, but it's not logically possible. They need every win that they can get, but Mason Rudolph and Brian Callahan are going to have something cooking up, and I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans.
I like Indy. Even though it's Mason Rudolph and not Will Levis, I was in the same thinking. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a
He's
week.
going to guide the sleigh tonight. It's going to be fine.
I'm taking the Colts in a close game, low scoring close game. I don't think this is going to be a barn burner by any means.
Titans.
Let's go to Philadelphia and Washington. This is also a massive game. As a Cardinals fan, I really need Philadelphia to win. And I think they do. I think Washington has just kind of hit their ceiling already. They peaked a little bit early in the year. Well, Philadelphia has a chance for the number one overall seed now, suddenly, with Detroit losing last week. That race for the top of the NFC is just going to be wild down the stretch. I think Philadelphia gets the win on the road.
Yeah, this is a big determining game in what Washington is. They've had a couple of these where they've gone against real teams and they've come up short. And so in their division here, Jaden Daniels still young, the Cliff Kingsbury experience still in its first year. I don't think it's there yet. Like I agree with you at the end of the day, and I'm going to take Philly.
For you and for former Wilk podcast guest, Philly.
Your bestie.
New York Giants and Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons game, I didn't realize that we were seeing the news like 2 weeks in advance. I was ready for the Falcons to be in primetime this week, but it's next week that they got flexed because it's still an important team, even if it's an awfully boring team given what we saw last week. Will it be the same with Penix? Do we get that interim bump that something's going different? I think it's easy. I think it's pretty easy to get that if you're playing the New York Giants, and so I'm going to take Atlanta.
Yeah, this is a perfect week to start a rookie quarterback for the first time ever against a Giants team that is just so bad. I think they're the worst team in football. I think they're worse than the Raiders at this point, even though they both just have the 2 wins. I think if they played each
How
other,
convenient that the Falcons get to get right against those two teams specifically.
yeah. I'm taking Atlanta. Atlanta big. I need a big game from Bijan again. And I think he gets. I think that's going to make Michael Penix's life really easy having the likes of Algier and Robinson in the backfield.
Agreed, Falcons.
My Cardinals in Carolina. Sorry, I'm not coming out for the game and Christmas, Mom, but Cardinals looked a lot better last week after three straight losses. Obviously, we got to see that in person. The way they're running the football, the way Carolina can't really defend the run right now, and that's why Dallas was able to pick them apart with play action and everything. That was the best the Cowboys that have looked in a hot minute. Even with a couple wins, Dallas has strung together with Cooper Rush. I just think I'm glad Arizona's playing Carolina this week and not 3 weeks ago, given where the two teams were at. I like the Cardinals on the road by multiple scores.
My risky move of the week is in guillotine. At this point, the waiver wire is resplendent. It's got everything that you would want. I'm starting Kyler over Lamar Jackson because he's playing the Steelers, but Kyler's got this matchup and he looked like he had juice. Yeah, it might be a lot of running, and so I almost hope that they don't get out to too much of a lead. But in the pickup, I feel pretty confident taking the Arizona Cardinals.
I think the Cardinals are going to be riding a high from last Sunday's win, attended by two of their smartest fans. So, Cardinals.
Detroit and Chicago. And we mentioned just the injuries that are adding up and piling for Detroit. Fortunately, they're playing Chicago, and Caleb Williams, it could be, the Utah Utes defense coming at him in this case, and he's not going to be able to get it off, let alone a professional defense, and led by Dan Campbell. And so I'm going to take Detroit.
Yeah, with how banged up Detroit is, this comes at a good time. 8 in a row for Chicago is now going to become 9 straight losses. Detroit's still very good. Are they elite anymore with these injuries? That's the big question. Like you said earlier, Cole, you need guys. Detroit's running out of guys, but they have enough guys to beat the Chicago Bears.
Go Lions.
Minnesota and Seattle, a possible round one playoff matchup right now is what we're looking at. I mean, Seattle could sneak in, wild card is up in the air. Honestly, these could be two division champions. It's all over the place in the NFC race. I'm going to take Minnesota because what Brian Flores does the best is get after the opposing quarterback, and the offensive line for Seattle has not proven that they can stop anything whatsoever.
Well, and how healthy is Geno? That's my big question. Is Sam Howell up to snuff? I don't really think so
Oof.
against this kind of a defense. Also, as a car that it's interesting that I'm picking what needs to happen for Arizona, but it's also what I
But it
think
makes
is going
sense.
to happen. Yeah, like it's not super outlandish. I need a Viking win. I told our friend Jacob Habel that last night. I think the Vikings do get it done against Seattle.
Skull.
That's my guess as well, Vikings.
Patriots taking on the Bills. What could be a great, we see Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow is such a fun twice-a-year matchup. After we saw Drake May last week, him versus Josh Allen down the road could be a lot of fun. This one's not going to be fun. Buffalo's going to win this by multiple scores, and I just New England's a year away. as we saw on Sunday.
Okay, so I guess I'm not totally sold on starting Kyler over Lamar, but I am sold on starting James Cook over Derrick Henry. Henry had a slower game last week, even, and that Steelers' run defense is something that they do well. And whatever the score ends up being, we know it's going to be a one-score game and not the kind of situation where Derrick Henry is going to be like chewing down the clock and taking down the whole thing. So James Cook, on the other hand, might get the entire second half to himself because this lead will be so big, and I'm going to take Buffalo.
Yep.
Brant's going to be happy about that.
Oh, it's
Jack
close.
Jacksonville and the Las Vegas Raiders. Man, we had a lot of really cool playoff matchups and good teams. And then there's this one hidden in there. A couple teams that'll be looking at new coaches probably next year, scouting out what other offenses are doing good, where the next boy genius is at. As far as the game, Jacksonville, I guess. Mac Jones is fun.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I think the quarterback situation simply favors Jacksonville at this point in the season. So I'm going to go with
With Mac
Jaguars.
Jones. Say that one more time. The quarterback at this point in the season favors Mac Jones.
Well, it's what? It's going to be Aiden O'Connell. It's not Desmond
Or
Ridder.
Desmond Ritter,
I mean,
or
Mac Jones nearly went 6-0 against the Jets last week. So there you go.
I'm gonna trust the matchup predictor on this one and say Raiders.
San Francisco taking on Miami. Early in the season, we would have thought, oh man, this is going to be such a great game. Both teams are 6-8, have severely underperformed. Miami just, that game last week, they just looked kind of dead in the water, even though it was a one-score game against Houston. San Francisco still has some pride to play for, and technically, both these teams still have mathematical chances at the playoffs. I'm just going to take the Niners, I think, as presently constituted. They're just a little bit better than the Dolphins.
I mean, this is a master and apprentice situation between Shanahan and Mike McDaniel. And the teams have been similarly beat up over the course of the season. So it will be interesting to see, what all they come with from this, offensive playmaker situation. Even if the game doesn't end up being perfect, I think it'll be an interesting little case study going into the offseason on what these two coaches have in the tank when it doesn't seem like they have anything to really go after. I'm going to go Miami.
On the next one, is there a next one? You
Yes.
guys only say the location. I'm not looking at your phone, and I have to guess the mascot.
Love it.
49ers on that last one.
All right. It's Tampa Bay in Dallas for our Sunday night game. I'm going to go
Got it.
Buccaneers. They're on a roll.
No, I got it. Actually, I was like Cowboys,
Oh.
obviously, and Buccaneers. I was proud of myself that I remembered Buccaneers because for a second I was like,
The
Oh,
Tom Brady
next
team.
one. Do it on the next one.
the pure, yeah, we'll do it again on the next. The pure just muscle memory of me making the prediction and saying the team name. I like Tampa Bay. They're on a roll. They've got Dallas still technically has stuff to play for too. They're still trying to somehow sneak into a wild card spot, but
McCarthy could be playing for his job.
yeah, I'm still going Tampa Bay though. They're on a roll.
I will also take Tampa.
I will also take the Buccaneers.
Nice. And last game of the slate, New Orleans versus Green Bay.
No, easy.
Yeah, I was like, darn it, knowing who these you're gonna get
And,
this pretty easy.
and then my mouth almost did the same thing because in my brain I want to shake up like do I from team name to
Saints versus Packers.
Saints and
As you were.
Packers. That is right. The Saints are as beat up as they come, and the Packers are trying to get right for the playoffs. I'm going to take Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay's a 14-point favorite. The real question is, will my brother, who's going to be at this game, his fourth Packer game of the year, actually get to see a full Jordan Love game? Because he's been to three Packer games and has seen 3/4 worth of Jordan Love.
If he
But it's
doesn't, we're
been
calling him officially cursed.
it's Malik Willis, man, which Malik Willis might play a lot in this game just because it could be a massive blowout. Packers should win pretty easy at home.
Go Packers.
Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go. Yeah, there you have it. Babe, appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad I was around.
Yeah, always nice when finals end. Uh, you don't have to deal with how can I improve my grade as students grovel, and in football there is no improving your grade. Either you win or you don't. So there you have it.
Facts.
Appreciate you hopping on though. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
And those were good picks. And we did that. We're releasing this before Thursday. You can go back and check the tape. So if Claire wins the $25 gift card, it wasn't nepotism. It's, she came out and she knew ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hang around enough, eventually you figure it out. Cole, appreciate you, my man. We'll do
Absolutely.
a recap on Monday, and then, hey, man, it's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and then we'll have stuff to talk about. So appreciate you, my brother, and we'll catch up with you on Monday.
Sounds good.
Best of luck house hunting.
Thank you.
Always fun. Once again, this has been Wilk and Wiz, your bi-weekly update on Utah athletes in the National Football League, as well as you, the fan. We'll catch up with you on a Monday.